Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Gorecom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out important news. And these guys have put out important news with a huge third quarter. With us to talk about is Jason Williams and Eldad Tora. They're co-CEOs of Kidoz, trades on the TSX Venture and the stock symbol KIDZ, KIDZ. And for our friends in the US, KDOZF. For those who are new to the story, because you might have saw that big headline number, Kidoz owns the biggest mobile advertising platform for kids and families, hence the amazing name and stock ticker. How big? There are almost 4,000 apps around the world using Kidoz, reaching over 300 million kids, and that's growing. We're actually going to talk about that. They work with some of the top brands, including Disney, McDonald's, Hasbro, you name it, on and on. Revenue annual 2017, here's the year by year, 1.9 million. Then 3 million 2018, 4.5 million 2019, and 2020, 7.1 million. So they're just blowing it out. And this year, Q1, 1.55 million, Q2, 2.18 million, and this quarter, 2.8 million, up 47%, with all sorts of great metrics on top of that. Guys, welcome back. Congratulations.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, very nice to be here. Good to see you, George.
Hey, great to have you guys on. Congratulations. Because look, as a founder of a digital company, people just think, if you're digital, you've got a great company, you're growing. It just doesn't work that way. It's hard work to get these results. Before we do the deep dive, give me some big picture perspective. How good are these results? Did they meet or surpass your expectations? And I guess it'd be a record Q3 for you, right? This would be a record.
Yeah. This is a record Q3. I mean, Q4 is typically the biggest quarter of the year for us. And last year, Q4 was a big one at 3.5 million. So now our Q3 is even getting into that territory of the Q4 just 9 months later. So we're feeling really good about it. It basically 30% quarter over quarter growth up to 2.8 here, a little bit over from the kind of 2.1 area in Q2. Really, we're hitting exactly where we want to. We brought in all the deals. We're seeing some really nice traction on some of the new areas that we're growing into. But all in all, it was a great quarter, and hats off to the team. And we're thrilled that everything's firing so well.
There are some market forces at play that I'd like to talk about that are really that are acting as a tailwind to you guys, and that's because you guys are smart enough to get ahead of this. So first one is, Eldad, you kind of mentioned this in your quote. The market forces powering our strategy continue to increase in strength as the enormous mobile advertising industry pivots towards contextual advertising. So that's market force number one. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. I think we mentioned it in the past, but maybe it was not as clear as it should be. The whole market is moving towards non-behavioral targeted ads. The concept of deep dives into your data and analyzing the behavior of each user and then profiling the user and serving ads that are relevant for the person. This whole concept of retargeting and behavioral is slowly moving away, and the regulation is very harsh against it. Luckily for us in the kid space, this was forbidden from the get-go. So we had to build ourselves completely different and rely on contextual data, meaning that we're trying to match the ad to the place it's being presented. Right. And we're trying to identify the user based on the content that they consume, which is going back to the traditional marketing as we know it from 20, 30 years ago. So it doesn't mean that it's less efficient. It just means that it works differently and respect the privacy of the user. And this concept is growing, and luckily for us, it grows our market and the need for the Kidoz solution even beyond our traditional market, which was the under 13. Right now, we're being asked to expand our solution also to teenagers and to parents in the same manner.
And in a family kind of context. But
exactly.
Guys, Jason, how big of a shift is that? Because to put it in perspective for people, to go from behavioral, because I know Google announced earlier this year that by 2023 they're getting away from behavioral. Right. How massive of a shift is that, so people understand how much money just might be coming your way
Well,
to go from.
I mean, honestly,
potential.
the size of the mobile advertising industry is just enormous. We're talking hundreds of billions here. I believe 400 billion is the number for 2023. And, probably the percentage is in the 90% plus that was using data-driven, soon to be not used practices.
Wow.
So we're talking
So
about hundreds of
90% old
billions.
school behavioral now has to shift over into contextual.
Correct. And there's still data signals that are allowed to be used. You can build cohorts about data activity, but that's something that Kidoz can use as well, because there's no rule against cohorts. It's specific individuals, which is what all of the current systems are built on, and all of them are pivoting towards a cohort set technology and practices.
The
Or
other
consent, right? Or consent. The user
consent.
may give his consent to allow the companies, the advertisers, to use his personal data. But honestly, I'm not sure that the 100% of users will be
The
okay
percentages
with
are low.
No, I don't. Yeah, I agree on that one. The other major market force, and we kind of take for granted, but television guys are just falling off the cliff, right?
Sure
When it
is.
comes to reaching your demographic and the shift in budgets to mobile. So, Eldad, how big of a shift is that? And we know that's been taking place, obviously, but how much more of a shift just keeps happening? I mean, how far until TV is almost non-existent when it comes to, this kind of marketing?
No, for them, I hope that they won't see a new low, right? We do hope that they will still remain. But to be honest, when I'm looking at my kids, I don't recall I think it's month or even years since they saw a commercial break, right? From the beginning to the end. Like when do they have an opportunity for a commercial break? They either see, Netflix on TV, or they watch YouTube, or like they have no other opportunity to watch an ad. And when we surveyed kids, we asked them, where is the most popular place where you bump into ads, where you see ads, where you meeting brands? And they all said like 47%, like the number one was mobile ad. This is where they see new products, learn about new services. Mobile ads is the number one channel for them to engage with brands.
And that's,
Super
Jason,
interesting.
just continues to grow and grow.
Absolutely. I mean, we're hearing from, firsthand sources, but also through our sales network, which is in 20, 30 plus countries, that, over and over, these brands are saying how difficult it is to reach certain segments and how they were putting money onto TV. But it's not just that they don't want to put money onto TV, which is increasingly true, but also the option doesn't even exist. There are certain countries, a bunch of them, where Cartoon Network, Disney, they've closed their advertising sales of their TV channels because they're focusing on other things. And so that money that maybe had $1 billion in a market now needs a new home if all the marketers are going to spend the same amount. And so it's going to mobile, it's going to YouTube, it's going to these kind of top tier areas, and mobile and YouTube are battling over that money. And we're a great beneficiary of that money.
Another final market force that's out there is the continued move towards, and you kind of touched it earlier, but the continued move towards global data and privacy regulations that continue to be enacted, and Apple and Google are really leading the way there. In fact, we even saw some kind of controversial ideas coming out of Apple last couple of months in terms of tracking on their phones. But for you guys, right, that just plays again, right? Because you're already set up for that. You guys have what I have to presume is just super tight data and privacy rules around the marketing that you guys already do. So you're just ready for that, right?
Exactly. And they just announced again that April 1st is a harsh deadline for every app that may enjoy traffic coming from under 13 kids. Even if the app is not necessarily kids oriented, they just announced that they will force them using solutions like us. And if they don't, or if they won't, they will have to ban them from the store. So the the regulation and the laws are becoming even stricter, and Google and Apple is already there. Apple already announced that every network that you're using must manually check every creative, and this is what we're doing. We're one of the only companies in the world that do so. But Google,
as parents, we have to love that, right? I mean, that's just great. That they're putting that much of an onus. But as shareholders, we're really happy of Kidoz because, again, you guys are already there. You guys didn't wait for government privacy and data regulations. You guys almost built that kind of environment in from the get-go.
Yeah, way ahead. It's definitely helping us. I mean, it's funny when you mentioned the data policies and data technology, which is all very true, but actually, you know, from the beginning, we don't operate with data. So a lot of times we get these very long data forms. Where is this data? How do you store that data? And the truth is, actually, we don't use the data. So we don't even have the data. We don't keep it. We don't store it. We don't use it. So there's no data risk when it comes to Kidoz. It's just
this is why, maybe to continue, this is why the shift from the if you look at the traditional systems like Google and you know, Facebook, they rely so heavily on knowing who is the user and what they do. So for them to move into the contextual manner is such a big difference. And this is why we are ahead of the curve, and we can enjoy those budgets earlier when advertisers care about privacy and don't want to risk their own brand safety and risk it with you know, behavioral targeting. So this is why we enjoy those budgets moving into Kidoz earlier, because their brand is safe with us.
Jason, at the outset of my intro, I said there are almost 4,000 apps that are using Kidoz now to serve ads. But in your quote, you said, the Kidoz system continues to grow and scale and has seen an increased rate of adoption amongst app developers.
Sure.
Clearly you're getting recognized. If I got an app, I want my app to be compliant, I'm going to Kidoz. Yeah. How do you see that number growing? Like, how big, what's the addressable market or the total market for the number of apps that could be using Kidoz? Sure. and where do you see it going?
Well, I mean, the thing is, there are millions of apps, right? And so there are ones that are super powerful, and there are ones that really, you know, add to some long tail, but don't do too much in terms of millions and millions of impressions. And so Kidoz, we hit pretty much all the kids apps. That's where we are, but we're seeing increased adoption into the families areas, the teens areas, and that quote really comes from the fact that we use a third-party system that I'll let kind of Eldad talk a little bit, that tracks SDK installs, and the slope of the curve on the adoption rate for Kidoz has increased dramatically over the past little while. How far ahead are we of the number 2 now, Eldad?
Yeah, we're more than double than our closest competitor. And they're pretty flat, and we're continuing to grow like 10-15% month over month in terms of the distribution of the SDK. So we think that the potential is in the tens of thousands of apps. As a general concept, 25% of the games out there are aimed at kids. So if there are, you know, millions of games out there, you know, 25% of those are specifically targeting kids. So the number could be as big as tens of thousands, or even towards the hundreds of thousands of apps.
Definitely.
So we're looking at you guys
evolve the software.
Go ahead,
yeah,
Jason.
we're ahead of it. I just say, like, you know, what's critical about software and why software has been such a top performer over the past 10 years is because as you start to get a software system that is gaining traction, it doesn't stop there, right? You can put more engineers, more design, more thought onto that software system, and it can do more. It can do more things. It can start to make more money. And then it just becomes this snowball effect on a piece of software. And that's what is the power of software. And that's where that original quote, "Software is eating the world," comes from, because a lot of it has to do with the fact that it creates the whole flywheel idea, in that software just keeps getting better and better and better the more time you spend on it. And the more time we spend on this system, the more money it makes, the bigger it gets, the more powerful it gets, the bigger the adoption. And that's just the way it's going to go.
So if this is baseball,
sure,
what inning do you think Kidoz is in terms of where you think it's going to go. You're at 4,000, maybe even more than that. Maybe I have to
Sure.
update that number and you guys can let us know. But you're somewhere in that range. But it sounds like from what you both said, tens of thousands definitely on the table, hundreds of thousands is possible as our society just continues to grow mobile digital. So are we in the first or second inning of Kidoz?
We're early in the game, sure. I mean, we've kind of established a nice lead in our market. So let's say, we're up, by 4 or 5 runs in the third inning, and we're just kind of feeling our feet and everybody's happy. And, we're lining up the next batters as we get ready for this fourth quarter. Hopefully someone's going to hit a home run. That's kind of how it feels.
Eldad, I know you're in Israel, so maybe I should have used soccer or something else as an example.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to join the analog. Like,
I knew Jason was going to take that one. Eldad, looking forward, Q4 last year was and that for everyone watching, obvious why Q4 is the biggest quarter, because this is shopping quarter, right? All the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, you name it, all of these things are taking place now in Q4. How's it tracking so far? Because we're in the middle of November, so we're pretty much halfway through the quarter, right? We're right in the middle of November. For example, devil's advocate, is supply chain causing a problem for you guys? Not that you guys would be exposed to it, but maybe George.com isn't advertising as much because I can't get my toys in from China or something like that. Is that causing any issues for you guys, or are you guys seeing full steam ahead?
Sure. We did see some delays, not necessarily cancellations, but we did see some budget being spent more evenly through the quarter, not necessarily trying to hit the Halloween and all the shopping craziness of the holidays. So we could expect for those budgets to evenly spread around during the quarter. I think some budget could be decreased, but I'm expecting a big Q4. I'm expecting a peak Q4 for us. So I think it's worthwhile to stay tuned.
Yeah, and it would be another. You guys keep on setting records for every quarter, right? Every year that goes by, you set a record for that quarter over any other year. So this Q3 was better than any previous one. This Q4, fingers crossed, should be better than any previous one. So you guys just on a roll, Jason.
Just to say, like, I was looking up earlier at some of the numbers, and the 9 months, through 9 months in 2020, we were through 9 months at 3.3 million. And right now we're through 9 months at 6.3. So we're almost 100%. This is on ad tech revenue, almost 100% through 9 months. And we're coming in really strong into Q4, and it's feeling really good. And exactly what Eldad said. Yes, like the shipping thing is causing some delays, but it's having a great effect for us, because sometimes there could be a bit of an inventory pinch in late November, kind of early December, when everyone wants their ads on. But if some people didn't get their toys a little bit late, they're saying, you know what, I'm going to extend that campaign that was supposed to end on the 10th of December. We're going to push it out now to the 22nd of December. Okay. So then that gives us kind of the ability to push that further out and run that rate up until Christmas. Because it does the very last week or so of Q4 is not as joyous as the heat of it, because once Christmas is done, then a lot of those ads come down. But that's just the nature.
So it's actually paradoxically extending your time, because George.com Toys wants a little.
George.com, it wanted to wait another week, so it's going to be hoping for some last minute rush shopping rather than thinking everybody's done on December the 10th.
Right, and allowing us to maximize the inventory we have more, in a healthier way in that sense.
Exactly.
Gents, congratulations to you and your teams on what you guys have pulled off. I love the fact, as a digital founder, you guys make me want to be better, just because I look at what you guys do. So from a digital to digital point of view, but as a shareholder or as someone just in the small cap space who watches small cap companies grow and develop, what you guys doing is really impressive. And I love how Jason put it. You're up 4 or 5 runs, but still the third inning. There's a long way to go.
Yeah,
so
long way to go.
Can't wait to have you back on. I know Q4 is going to be released with the annual, so that'll take a little bit of time. But maybe what we could do is have another call in December, mid-December or so, just to
Yeah, I
give
think that's a
everyone
good idea,
year-end review and just kind of give everyone a feel for how the quarter went. But
for
for
sure.
today, congratulations to
Great
you
to
and
see
your
you,
team,
George.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Talk to you soon.
To everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform. To both Jason Williams and Eldad Tora, both co-CEOs of Kidoz Inc., trades in Canada under KIDZ, trades in the US under KDOZF. Look, if you're a believer in mobile advertising, if you're a believer in e-commerce, if you're a believer in technology in general, then, and especially if you're a parent, by the way, because you really understand a lot of these market forces and why they're so important, then you've got to do your due diligence in Kidoz. We can't tell you what to do. All we can point is in the right direction. So get to the company's profile page in the Agoracom, where we've got it all neatly laid out for you so you can get a good 1,000-foot view of the company. And then from there, when you're ready for your deep dive, head right over to the company's website, do your deep dive due diligence. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time. Hey guys, this video is over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and then leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our channel so you don't ever miss another great Agoracom small cap video.